Hello, everyone. This is Jordan Lee, and today we're going to talk about the most valuable resource you own. In a world where every glowing screen and notification chime competes for a piece of your mind, the most valuable currency you possess isn't money or status, but your focus. Consider the last time you felt genuinely in control of your day. Most of us move through our lives in a state of reactive compliance, responding to the loudest demand or the brightest light without ever questioning who is actually pulling the strings of our behavior. To truly achieve the growth we desire, we must go beneath the surface of our desires and examine the mechanics of our daily cognitive operations. We are often told that success is a matter of pure grit, but the reality involves understanding the systems beneath your choices. What follows are techniques to consciously shape your attention, build effective habits, and optimize your environment. You'll walk away with methods to reclaim your autonomy from digital chaos and rebuild control over your mental space. Every decision you make is filtered through the lens of your current mental state. However, we rarely stop to consider that our attention is a finite resource. Direct it intentionally. Imagine your mental focus as a flashlight in a dark cavern. Whatever you shine that light on becomes your entire reality in that moment. If you spend your hours illuminating anxieties, social media feeds, or the opinions of strangers, that becomes the substance of your life. Conversely, when you learn to point that light toward meaningful projects and deep learning, your world expands. The challenge is that our brains are naturally wired to seek out novelty and threat, making us susceptible to the constant stream of digital noise. We must treat our focus like a precious asset, shielding it from unnecessary erosion. This requires a shift from being a passive consumer of information to an active curator of your own cognitive inputs. If you want to understand why you do what you do, look at your surroundings. The invisible architecture of your environment is a powerful driver of your behavior. We like to believe that we are independent agents making rational choices, but we are often just reacting to the cues around us. If there is a bowl of candy on the desk, you will eat it not from hunger, but from proximity. If your phone sits next to your pillow, you will check it first thing in the morning because the friction to do so is zero. Changing your life is rarely about changing your personality. It is about redesigning the spaces you inhabit. When you organize your physical and digital world to make good choices easy and bad choices difficult, you are doing the heavy lifting of self-improvement while your willpower is still fresh. You can engineer productivity by placing tools for success within reach and adding friction to sources of distraction. A book on the nightstand versus your phone in another room is not willpower, it is architecture. Consider someone struggling with deep work sessions. They moved their laptop charger to a different room, forcing themselves to work in a distraction-free zone with a finite battery window. Within 2 weeks, their output doubled, simply because the environment removed the option to drift. The setup did the work that motivation could not sustain. This brings us to the concept of micro-progressions. We are often paralyzed by the magnitude of our ultimate goals, whether that is writing a book, mastering a skill, or learning a new language. We look at the mountain and forget the path. The secret to long-term transformation lies in the understanding that small, consistent actions compound into significant results over time. A single drop of water does nothing to a stone, but thousands of drops applied daily carve canyons. Your habits work in exactly the same way. A 15-minute daily practice might seem negligible today, but in a year, those sessions aggregate into over 90 hours of focused work, far more than most invest in a skill in their lifetime. The goal is not to be a hero for one day, but to be a person who never misses the small, incremental steps. When you focus on the process rather than the outcome, you detach from the anxiety of perfection and start to enjoy the rhythm of progress. To anchor a new habit effectively, first make it so small that refusal feels absurd, like putting on running shoes without requiring the run. Second, attach it immediately after an existing routine you already perform daily, such as coffee or brushing teeth. Third, track it visibly with a simple mark on paper or calendar, because the chain of evidence becomes its own motivation to continue. These three elements remove ambiguity and lower the activation energy required to begin. Of course, knowing what to do is different from actually doing it, especially when emotions run high or exhaustion sets in. This is where the development of internal discipline becomes vital. Self-regulation is a skill that can be trained and strengthened, much like a muscle in the gym. Every time you feel the urge to check your phone while working and you choose to stay on task, you are performing a mental repetition. Over time, your capacity to resist impulse grows. This is not about becoming robotic. It's about inserting a gap between stimulus and response. In that gap, you reclaim agency. You can observe the urge without obeying it. By practicing mindfulness and observing your cravings without immediately acting on them, you diminish their power over you. You begin to realize that discomfort is temporary and that your long-term goals are more satisfying than a momentary hit of dopamine. To effectively manage your behavior, you must become a detective of your own psychology. You need to identify your personal triggers, the situations that consistently derail you, and design proactive responses in advance. Everyone has specific patterns. Perhaps you reach for junk food when you're stressed, or you procrastinate when a task feels too vague. Instead of beating yourself up for these tendencies, treat them as data points. Once you know that stress leads to grazing, you create an implementation intention. If I feel stressed, then I will drink water and step outside for 3 minutes. The specificity removes the need for in-the-moment decision-making fatigue. By pre-deciding your reaction to specific cues, you remove the need for decision-making in the heat of the moment. This proactive design ensures that your weakest moments don't collapse the scaffolding of your larger ambitions. It's about creating a system that supports you when your motivation is at its lowest. One common anti-pattern is trying to rely on awareness alone, assuming that simply noticing a bad habit will stop it. Replace this with a concrete substitution rule. When the trigger fires, immediately perform a predetermined alternative action that satisfies the same underlying need but moves you toward your goal instead of away. Maintaining this momentum requires a deliberate approach to recovery and reflection. You can't operate at peak capacity indefinitely. Just as muscle grows during rest, not exertion, your brain requires downtime to consolidate learning and restore executive function. If you push through fatigue constantly, your decision-making degrades and you become more susceptible to old, unproductive habits. High-quality rest is not a luxury, it's a prerequisite for sustained growth. This also means regularly stepping back to assess your trajectory. Are the habits you're building actually serving the person you want to become? Reflection allows you to course correct before drift becomes disaster. Weekly audits of your time and energy reveal what's yielding results and what's theater. Prune the dead branches. Double down on what compounds. Finally, we must acknowledge the power of social circles and community standards. While internal work is paramount, humans are social creatures who unconsciously mirror the behaviors, language, and standards of those around them. If your immediate circle values growth, health, and intellectual rigor, those traits become your baseline. You absorb their standards without conscious effort. Conversely, if your social environment reinforces stagnation or negativity, your personal progress will feel like an uphill battle against the wind. Surround yourself with people who challenge your assumptions and encourage your development. This doesn't mean discarding relationships. It does mean being selective about whose voices occupy space in your internal monologue and whose opinions shape your decisions. The collective expectations of your group define what you consider normal, acceptable, and possible. Choose your reference group with the same care you would choose a mentor. Personal mastery is built on 3 pillars: intentional management of your attention, strategic design of your environment, and the compounding power of small, repeated actions. You are the architect of your own experience. By taking responsibility for the invisible forces that shape your daily life, you move from passenger to pilot. Change is not an event. It is a continuous process of small refinements, each one building on the last. It starts with the very next choice you make, right now. Decide now what deserves your attention. Remove the obstacles from your path. Commit to the small actions that compound into transformation. The tools are in your hands. The only question is whether you will apply them consistently enough to see the results. Your potential is not a ceiling. It is a horizon that expands with each deliberate step. Stay focused, stay consistent. The transformation will not announce itself loudly, but one day you will look back and realize how far the ground has shifted beneath your feet.
If this video was helpful or interesting to you, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel so I can keep making more content like this.